Oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm very sorry about the delay, and we'll just get straight on now. So, welcome back if you've been to this channel before. As you know, this doesn't usually happen, so hopefully it's just a glitch that's going to get better. If you're a new subscriber, newcomer to the channel, thank you for coming, and I'm sorry you've had to wait. If eventually you enjoy this programme, then please like and subscribe it. And let me know where you are in the world, and please ask questions. Rob's here to take any messages you send, and he'll relay them to me. So let's get started. So first of all, an update on things that have happened since I last saw you. If you remember, I was working on my ladies knitting, and that is currently in an exhibition, and I'm very pleased to say that it's just sold. So good news, and it's in the exhibition for another week now, so lots of people are getting to see it. The last time we met, I was working on my little deer piece, and that is now finished. So I'm going to show that to you now. Can we go to the close-up screen, Rob, please? You go to the close-up. Rob, close-up screen, please. Close-up screen, please. We're having all sorts of problems here today. Right, okay, so here's the finished deer. I think the last time you saw it, I hadn't actually done the base. So he's now got his little base, and he has got his little pool of water that he's drinking from. Yeah, there's a close-up of it. So here he is, he's very delicate. There's his little pool of water. And the good news is I submitted him to an exhibition, and he was accepted, which is lovely. So he's going to be exhibited in a gallery in Milford Haven, which is in West Wales, in October, and then he's going up to London to be exhibited in Art at Oxo, which is a big gallery in London. So that's very exciting news. So I thought you'd like to hear that, as you've been part of his progress. Just to tell you what I've been working on since I last saw you, and I've been making this woman. She's called Woman in a Silk Headscarf, and she's made entirely of papier-mâché and coloured paper. No paint at all. So I've literally just finished her. I finished her yesterday. So I have no plans for her at the moment. I should probably just put her on one of my selling platforms and hope that somebody buys her. But there she is. Quite pleased with how she's turned out. I'll give you a close-up of her face and the headscarf, which is made just from coloured paper. I was sort of channeling my Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly look, I think, with with this one. The other thing I'm working on is a commission, which is actually going to be 3 people. It's 2 brothers, so I've done this one. This is the first brother, and this is the other one, which is still in the early stages. And in the middle of them will be their mother, so I haven't started making her yet. But this should be quite a nice commission to do, and they will just be head and shoulders, the 3 of them, both with their arms around the shoulders of their mother. Will be in the middle. So I'm hoping that's going to turn out well, and next time we meet I will show you how it's looking. Okay. Now the last time we met, we started making an armature for a simple standing figure, and a lot of you said that you would like to watch this as it takes shape. So this was how far we got last time, and I've resisted the urge to do any more to it, so that you can see absolutely everything as I gradually work on this piece. So if you can see, last time we literally just had a look at the front of the torso, so we put to the back of the torso and the legs, and I've just put in a simple cocktail stick just to indicate the neck, and obviously there'll be a head on the top, but we're just going to concentrate on the body. And I think last time general opinion was that you would like to watch a bit more of this, and I think some of you may even be working along with me on this. So we'll spend this evening looking at this. So if you remember, those of you who were watching last time, this was the image we were using. This is a triple image showing front, back and a sort of 3/4 view. So it's a very, very simple pose. We haven't done anything other than legs just supporting weights equally, so we don't have to worry about foreshortening or anything like that. It's just a very simple pose. So this is the start of it. So this evening I'm going to show you how we're going to go about this. I've got a couple of reference pictures which I'm going to use. The first is a skeleton. This is a female skeleton, so we can just look at some of the anatomy of making a simple female figure. And the second reference picture I'm going to use is a back view with, you can see the skeleton indicated, but it's got more flesh on the bones. Okay, so we're going to start just looking at this skeleton photograph. We're going to have a look at, first of all I'm going to talk, we've gone again, right. First of all we're going to have a look at proportions, and then a little bit of the anatomy of how the legs join onto the pelvis. Okay, so first of all, in terms of proportions, if we take this, the length of this body, and imagine the head is about there, the top of the head. If you take that amount, let me put my black screen, that amount, and transfer it down to here, that's roughly where the feet are going to be. So I've just put a little mark on here. So I'm not going to cut the bottom of this stick off until we've done some of the legs, so that it gives us a bit of leeway. They may look a little bit long, but when you start actually adding clay, papier-mâché clay, everything's going to fill out, and so you almost need to have everything just slightly bigger than you want, longer, and the proportions are slightly more exaggerated than you think. Also, the proportion from, you can divide the area between the little bit at the base of the neck, at the top of the neck, at the base of the neck rather, the little sort of dimple you have at the base of your neck, down to the pubic bone. That can be divided almost exactly into 3. So if you go from the neck to the top of the rib cage, or where the rib cage starts to divide down like this, and then from there to the navel, and from there to the pubic bone, it's almost exactly equally spaced. It's probably slightly larger from the navel to the pubic bone, but it's, you can think of it in thirds. Okay, so that's what we're going to base it on at the moment. But the first thing I'm going to do is to just add the second leg, and if you remember last time we used a chopstick just to give added strength and to give us something to build the put the papier-mâché on. So I'm just going to position this here so it's equal to the other one, and I'm using masking tape again. And if we have a look at our diagram of the skeleton here, you'll see that the bones of the thigh, they actually taper in, so it's quite a knock-kneed looking shape. The bone bends inwards towards the knee. So I'm going to just, with my 2 sticks, I'm just going to put them together a little bit like this to give that impression. And then of course when we come to do the lower leg, I might actually just snap the stick slightly so that we can, not completely, but just so that we can bend it outwards again, just to give it the shape of it going inwards and then down. But that'll come later. And it may even just happen with the clay rather than with the armature. So there she is with her 2 stick legs. So the next bit we're going to have a look at, we'll have a look at our drawing here. So we've done this area. Now I think I'm going to have a look at this area so we can see how the rib cage, if you can see, it comes down like this and then it goes up towards the back. And we need to feel that sort of 3D cage that is actually the rib cage, so that we can then start to fill this up towards the back. So I'm going to get some newspaper. You don't need very much to start with. So if I mark on here, I think I want my rib cage to divide roughly like that. So we want the rib cage to be filled out and to go round to the back and up. So as we can see in this picture here, so it's going round and under where the arm is going to be. So again with masking tape. So we want to get the ridge that's coming down here. Is anybody actually making this along with me? You know, making your own figure as we go along? Just, let me know in the comments. So there's the start of the first side. The nice thing about doing this with the masking tape and the newspaper is that if it's not right, you can just take it off and have another go. So I'm going to turn it round to the back now, just to secure the ribs into the back. And we're starting to get the shape of the ribs and the ridge that is going up between them here. You really don't have to be too accurate with this at this stage, because it's just a guide for when you start to add the clay. But try and think 3D all the time. Just try and sort of think that everything you do on here is going round to the back. And if we have a look at our skeleton photograph again, if we look at this picture here, you can see that the spine is coming down from the neck and it's quite an S shape. It goes in underneath the ribs and then back out again. So there's actually, you can see a little bit in this picture, there's actually quite a hollow in the back there. So these, it's back here, where the rib cage comes round, it's actually hollowing into the small of the back there. So we can actually pull that around a little bit like that. What I'll do is I'll attach that like that. Okay, so now we're going to look at the hips, and what we have to try and think of now is which bits of the skeleton actually show through the skin and that you would actually see. So here is where your hip bone is, and it comes around like that, and you actually see it. It's the boniest bit really that you see if you're doing a figure that's not too heavy, you know, not too much fat attached to it. But you do actually see the hip bone coming around, and about, so if we think that the hip bone is coming around like that, and the same on the other side, we need to indicate that, and just there at the end of where the hip bone is, there's a really knobbly bit of bone, and don't ask me what it's called, these have all got Latin names and I don't know what they are, but these are important, and I'll show you why shortly. But if we just indicate where they are and just draw a line between them, that gives us a little bit of indication of the pelvis. And then if we say that this is the pubic bone here, then if we draw a line from that knobbly bit down to the pubic bone, and you get this triangle effect, then you can see how the thigh, the hip and the thigh start to develop into the leg. Okay. Now, if we now turn it sideways, have a look at our drawing here. So we can see her thigh. Can you see there's that triangle there that we've just drawn on here. So we're now going to make this shape, which goes towards the buttock at the back. But we do need to create that shape so that it actually leads into the buttock at the back. So I'm just going to put some paper there, some tape over. It's stuck. You see how that is starting to create the hip shape here. We need to do the same on the other side. So here's my tape sticking to everything here. So here's now my hip bone with the little knobbly bit there, and my hip bone coming across there. So there's our triangle. Okay. Now, turning to the back, we need to start to create the roundness of the buttocks. So if you look at this picture here now, you can see it's quite a sort of almost an egg shape that comes up from, that's too big a piece of paper. We start small and then gradually build it up. Best to do it small to begin with, and you can see that it sort of comes down this way like that. So now you're starting to see the roundness of the buttock there. And then you have the buttock which overhangs the thigh here and then goes up towards the middle there. So I think you need a bit more paper there. Everybody's very quiet this evening. Has anyone got anything to say? Any questions or comments? Is anybody making this alongside us? Me?
Liz Gamble said she tried, but it didn't work.
What didn't work?
I don't know. She needs to learn patience, she says.
Yeah, you do need patience, that's true. Right, so there's the first buttock. Is anybody going to tell me where they are this evening? What countries have we got here tonight? Keep turning your piece round so that you can just check everything as you're going. Now, don't worry if this looks like quite a large bottom at the moment, because don't forget, you're going to fill out the whole of the back and the thighs, and we can always slim it down if it is too big, but we're just getting the basic shapes in at the moment. I think you can see we're starting to get the shape of the buttock. Pardon? Did you say something wrong? So
Right, Pixie Haven is in the east coast of the United States.
Right, hello Pixie.
Pixie Haven.
Yes, nice to see you.
And Liz
Pixie.
Gamble is in southwest Victoria in Australia.
Oh, right. Well, welcome. I suppose, Liz, you're up at the crack of dawn.
And Sam C is in Newport.
I recognise that name. That's my son. Hello, Sam. Thank you for your help earlier with the technical problem. Does that mean we've only got 3 people watching? Right, so there's that. So now we're going to have a look at the back, and I think I'm going to use this picture for that. So we've got to get these the rib cage here, and also the shoulder blades. Once
No, it's not minute 7.
Pardon? Right, so the shoulder blades are just triangles. You can see in this picture here. It's a triangle, and that together with the collarbones on the front of the piece is what holds the arms in place. So they are quite important to get it in the right place. Now, because we're doing such a simple pose, it's quite straightforward to do the shoulder blades, because once you start having the arms in exaggerated poses, then the shoulder blades change shape quite drastically and they stick out in different places. So we're not having to worry about that this evening, because we're doing a nice straightforward pose. But I'm just suggesting here now the triangle of the shoulder blade. The other one. So now you're starting to see this hollow that I was talking about in the back, because with the shoulder blades in place, we're now getting a hollow here. And I'm actually going to emphasise this rib cage a little bit more, because it goes up towards the back a little bit more exaggerated than I've done here. So I'll add a little bit more paper to that. This might seem to be quite a fuss to do all this for before you even get started on the papier-mâché, but I can't emphasise enough actually how important it is to get this stage right, because it makes everything else so much easier when you come to put the clay onto the piece. You know, you've got such a framework to work with that it makes your life a lot easier. So I do tend to take quite a lot of trouble over making the armature. So you can see now that that rib cage has come out quite a lot. So you can see I've torn up a lot of masking tape in advance so that I don't have to fiddle about with it. You were watching. Right, so that rib cage is nicely rounded up towards the shoulders now. just going to emphasise the hollowed back again, and then I'm going to just add a little bit more rib cage on the other side. Secure this in place. Right, so if I move on to my black piece of paper, hopefully you'll be able to see this more clearly now. So you can see the hips now are in place. We're going to do the size in a minute, but also the rib cage is now a bit more pronounced. We can do better with this, but this will be a good start. Make sure it goes up around to the shoulders, up around to the shoulders here, and we've got the start of the buttocks there. And try and get this curve here. I don't know if you can see that here, but this curve, if you imagine a line of pair of underpants there, that would come there, and you started to get that line down here, and you're getting the roundness of the buttock. And the buttock actually comes right around here. It comes down and round like that, over the top of the thigh. So we'll probably need to fix that later when we've done the thigh. And the same with this one. Now it looks a little bit bumpy at the moment, but obviously the clay, when that goes on, will smooth all that out. Now, when we come to do the thighs, look at this picture here. The thighs from the front. So here's our triangle effect that we've got with those two little bony bits I was telling you about, down to the pubic bone. And then you've got this, so this area here is what we're going to look at now. So if you think of that as a cylinder, okay, so we're going to get some newspaper, and starting, here's the pointy bit goes up to there, and we're going to make the cylinder down to the knee, which I've marked as being there. So if you notice here, this side is rounded and this side is straight. So straight and rounded. So that's what we're going to try and create, down to the knee. So if I do the rounded bit, starting from up here, so it's going to go round and down to the knee. I'll just anchor that in place to start with. So there's your curved edge coming right down to the knee there, and then we're going to do this straight bit down to the knee. Now what you must be careful of, and I'm actually falling into this trap myself, is that you mustn't think of this leg as being the size of the finished leg. So I'm just going to try and make this a little bit thinner now, because obviously when you put the clay on, you're going to get it a lot fatter. So you need to sort of think a lot thinner than you're actually going to end up being. So I'm pulling the tape quite tightly so that I can get the leg thinner.
Sam C says, how much tape do you get through on a project like this?
Quite a lot, but I use rolls like this, and it does last quite a long time actually, because I'm just using quite small pieces, and it depends what the pieces that you're working on really. I mean, some pieces need a lot more reinforcement than others, and so you use a lot more tape. So it's getting narrower down towards the knee. And the other thing you need to be thinking of when you're making this is being aware of where the bone is inside all this. So if you look at this one again, this picture, here's the bone, and it's going down like that. There's not a lot of flesh on top of it that side, but there's quite a lot on the other side. And the way we're going to, I love this bit actually. This is a really neat trick, I think. I'm just going to put a bit more tape on there to make that a bit thinner there. I'm going to pull it quite tightly just to pull it in. So, do you remember I told you about these little knobbly bits which are just there at the end of the hip bone, which comes across there? Now those little bony bits are you can actually feel them if you feel your own hips. Now if you take a line from that knobbly bit down to the inside of the knee, you get the muscle which will then define this, I'm going to say flabby bit of your thigh, but you know, the bit that you see move around a bit. So if you sat on a chair, this bit would sort of splodge out a little bit. Perhaps that's just on me, but there is a sort of muscle that comes down from this bit down the leg to the inner knee, and that will define the firm bit of thigh here and the softer, squishier bit just there. So I'm going to just use my finger now to just show where that is, and I'm going to be aware of it when I come to actually put the clay on. But it's quite a good way to shape a leg, I think. Okay, so there's the first leg down as far as the knee. So we need to do that now on the other side. So again, we've got the picture here. We've got the curve down to the knee this side and the straight down to the knee this side. I'm going to try not to fall into the trap this time of making this too fast. So I'll just anchor that in position to start with. I hope you will think that my camera work is a little bit better today. It was awful last time, but I've got the camera in a better position above me now, and I can see better what I'm doing, and I hope you can. And I'm not sort of trying to hold things up to the camera and getting it all wrong. I did do a little bit of practice on it. Tape's got stuck to go there. Okay, so that's the outer curved area. And now I'm going to do the inner bit. This is a bit fiddly now because the legs are quite close together, so to get the tape in between.
Can't see you.
Reverted to my bad camera ways then. Run out of tape. And again, I'm just going to thin this leg down a little bit because it's too fat for when we come to put the clay on. I think I've got one leg slightly fatter than the other, so I'm just going to give a bit more depth to the thigh on the other leg. I feel a bit sorry for Rob this evening. I think he's had a bit of a stressful time with all the technical problems we had to start with, so I hope he's alright. You calm down now, Rob. You can't hear me, he's got his headphones on. Right, so you can see now we've got a basic shape now of thighs tapering to the knee, and we've got the start of the buttocks there. So we have to actually build the thigh up so that it joins here, widens up a bit there. So if you have a look at the thigh in this picture, here's the bone, but the thigh actually bulges out slightly here before it just joins in underneath the buttock there. We're just going to do a little bit more now. Sometimes feel you need 3 pairs of hands to do this. And I think you can actually make the thigh here bulge out a little bit more, but we can do that at a later stage. But what we do need to do is to make sure that this buttock sits over the thigh. So the thigh actually goes out on the back. It bulges out quite a lot there. I think you call them fat pads or something. So it comes round and then underneath the buttock. I'm just going to use a pair of scissors to just cut there, because the tape's stuck together. So you've lost some of the definition there. So from the side you see the thigh starting to shape up. A long way to go with it yet, but I'm just going to now fill in a little bit just under the buttock there. Just to round off the leg a little bit. Again, need to snip the tape a little bit there. just need to round the bottom of the buttock off a little bit so that it does actually overhang the thigh.
Pixie has asked, do you have to gesso the armature or coat it with something else before adding the clay?
No, not at all. You can put the clay straight onto this. It sticks beautifully to it. So I don't know if you can see that I've just rounded off here. And I'm just going to put that up a bit higher there. So I don't think we're going to get a lot more done this evening yet. How are we doing for time? And I'm going to flatten this down a little bit here towards the back of the knee, because the back of your knee is actually quite flat.
Past 10?
Right, okay, so I think we're going to have to stop
But we started late.
Well, I'll go on for a couple more minutes and then we'll call it a day. So here's, let's have a look and see how far we've got. I mean, there's a lot of, when you get to this stage, you can do a lot by just pulling and poking at it to get it as you want it, to get the right shapes. So you can see now that the thigh is starting to shape up there and on the back. And we've still got to, this is far too hollow, there's no waist here, so we need to just fill this bit out so that it comes down to the top of the buttocks there. And I'm actually going to just push it all together a little bit now, so I'm just going to pull her back, which means I'm going to have to open the legs a bit wider, but I'm going to pull it back because I think that that needs to come in a little bit. Again, use your eye with this. So I'm going to tear off a piece of tape, and just put it across the top of her back like that, quite tightly, so that it pulls it together, and then you can start to see how this will form here. It'll come down into a little sort of depth gully there, and this buttock needs to be a little bit more rounded. Just to round that up a little bit more there. I'm just using my fingers just to shape it, push it and pull it into shape. But obviously the clay, when you start to put the papier-mâché clay on, will do a lot of that work for you. It'll smooth it all out and you can correct things as you go. So, I don't know whether you can see this now. I'll put it on the black background. So this leg we haven't done yet to thicken up the thigh. Round to the back, which can probably still go in a little bit like that. And then the thigh thickened up there. So, would people like me to do any of this before we meet again, or do you want me to wait and do it when we meet? You tell me what you prefer. I think some people did want to see a project from start to finish, and this sort of is what we're doing. But obviously on the next one I'll also show you the finished, or I hope it'll be finished, this one that I'm doing with the two brothers and their mother, and anything else that I've done in the meantime. Okay, so just a couple of things just to finish off. The next broadcast is on the 4th of September. It's again a Sunday, and there'll be a link. We'll send you a link, which I hope will work better than tonight. So I'm so sorry about the start of this one. The other thing to say is, if there is anyone watching who is in the UK and near enough to Cardiff to want to come and do a workshop with me, I will be doing one towards the end of October. So if you're interested and want to join that, or just find out more information about it, just drop me a message, a private message on Messenger or whatever, or on my website, and I'll get back to you with information. The workshops I do are very small. I take 4 people at a time, so that I can give lots of attention to people, and it's over 2 days, and we aim to make a piece from start to finish using all the processes that I use, and you'll end up with a piece of work completely finished to take home with you. And you don't need to bring anything at all. Pardon? So that's it for this week. I hope you'll tune in again next time, and that I get a better start to the evening. So thank you very much for coming and watching. Remember to subscribe and like and all the rest of the things you're supposed to do on YouTube, and I'll see you next time.
A couple of people have said, please wait before you do the next one.
Oh, please wait. Okay.
And also there was a question earlier on from Pixie, I think, about the girl with the headscarf.
Yes.
Is the headscarf made of paper, she said?
Yes, it is. It's made of coloured paper. What I did with this, I made an underscarf, if you like, of using a thicker paper, just white paper, and then I used coloured tissue paper, which I tore up and made this design on the headscarf. So it was, let me show you now. This was the paper I used, and I literally just took off bits. I didn't use the pattern as it is. I didn't just put a complete piece on. It's made of lots of little pieces torn up and put on, so that I sort of just made my own design using the design of the tissue paper. And I think it's worked quite well, actually. It does look like a sort of headscarf that someone like Audrey Hepburn or Grace Kelly would have worn in glamorous days. And I think she's got quite a sassy look to her. She's got a sort of smirky face. So yeah, all paper. I tried to do everything as much as possible with paper. As you probably know, I don't use paint. All the skin colour is done with powders, and as is the hair. So the only colour that isn't powder actually is the headscarf, and that's coloured paper. So am I right in thinking that you want me to wait on this one and we'll do some more of it next time? I think that's what you said, wasn't it? Okay, so any more questions before we go? No? I think there's a bit of a delay on this. So if that's all, then we'll say good night for now. It's 10:10 in the evening here. I don't know what time it is in your various places. Probably very early for Liz, is it?
Breakfast or dinner time, depending where you are.
Right, okay. Well, I'm going to get cleared up and go to bed. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.